So at 14 years old, my foster mom accused me of sleeping with her husband and kicked me out of her house. Hey bulls, welcome back to another video. If you're new, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, notification bell, and let's keep the family growing. Hey, let's keep the family growing. Okay, so this actually has been a very requested video, and I'm finally going to go ahead and do it. So this is going to be my foster care story.
Turn the click off for me.
I'm going to tell you guys about my personal foster care journey. So my parents passed away when I was pretty young. My dad passed away when I was about 9. My father was a pastor, so he traveled a lot. He made a lot of contacts. He traveled from Haiti to the US to Canada. So he was all over the place as a missionary. So it all started when my father passed away. I was about 8 or 9 years old, and he passed away, and my mom had 4 kids. So I ended up going to live with one of my father's friends in Florida. It was a nice couple with 2 children, a girl and a boy. I believe the man was a pastor in his own church. I'm not sure, but he was a connect of my parents, and they decided, oh sure, we'll help you out. So my mom sent me to go live with them so that she could take care of the younger kids. I don't blame her for that. It was a lot. She was a single mom, suddenly riddled with 4 kids, and it was a lot. It's funny because my parents helped out in the community a lot with donations and food drives and giving clothes, toys. I remember sometimes my father would come home with like tons and tons of toys, and we would want to play with them, and I'll say, oh no, these are for people less fortunate than us. I remember one time, and a godmother sent me and my siblings some toys, and there was like Barbie dolls and Legos and things like that, and I was so happy. We got to play with it. And then my father's like, oh, we have this family who just lost everything. The kids have no toys, and it'll be nice to share some of your toys. And at 7, I did not feel like I was given a choice of whether or not I wanted to share my toys with somebody. It was more of like, I'm just gonna take your toys and give it to somebody else. And it's crazy because as a child, you don't understand this. You just feel like, I don't know, I just felt like whatever I liked was always constantly being taken away to give to others. And sometimes like people will come to our house and they'll steal our toys. So to me, I never saw it as let's give back to others. I just saw it as people were constantly taking from me. But then my dad passed away, so I moved to go live with a couple from his church, from one of his churches. And at first it was okay. I was extremely grateful. I remember them buying me uniform clothes to go to school, and I just, like, the young me felt that was the specialest thing ever, because I got to keep what they bought for me, and I didn't have to give it to anybody else, because I guess at the time I was the less fortunate, I guess. After less than a year, they decided, you know what, we don't really want to have another child, we'll just stick to the 2 that we have. So they passed me off to another family in the church. And it was kind of the same situation. It was a husband and a wife, and they had 2 kids, a boy and a girl. So they had an extra guest room, so I packed my things and I went off to live with them. And around the time that I was living with them, it was okay at first. The dad would treat me the same way he treated his kids. So if you'll say, hey, you have an annual report card, so for every A you have, I'll give you $1. He'll do the same thing for me. I was a really good student. I was very nerdy. I was always winning book contests, and I won a science fair. I won a computer from school once. It was a lot of different things. I was very nerdy. I was always reading. Like, I buried myself in books because I did not want to experience life outside. I lost my father. I never really got to grieve it. I was taken away from my mom and my siblings. So it was just like, it was a lot for a kid my age to handle at the time. So I never really I guess I never really got to grieve about it. At some point during the time that I was living with them, my mom passed away. And I remember that they came to pick me up from school and they said, oh, we're gonna go get ice cream because we have some news to tell you. And so we go and get ice cream, and I can't remember. Then all of a sudden she said, you know, the mom came to talk to me and she said, you know how you've been bad lately, how you didn't pick up something that I was supposed to do, some chore I was supposed to do that I didn't do properly. She said, oh, you were not listening, you didn't finish your chore. So basically she was telling me that I was, you know, you've been really bad lately. And so I was thinking, okay, well, I was bad, so why are you giving me ice cream? I didn't say that out loud. And so she said, because of you and all the stress you caused your mother, she died. She basically said, you were such a bad child, you killed your mother. And for a long time, and maybe probably still now, I believed her. I think my mom was sending money to take care of me every month. After she passed away, I literally woke up the next day in a nightmare. Prior to her dying, I was able to passively, you know, live every day, wake up, do my chores, go to school, come home, eat, read, do homework, go to sleep, repeat. So and you know, it was a very religious family, so we went to church and things like that constantly every Sunday, and we had Bible study, so we were constantly in the church. So, like, you know, like I said, the first family I lived with was part of the church, second family I lived with was part of the church. At the time that my mom passed away, she was actually in Haiti, so her husband gave her money to take me, for me and her to go to Haiti, to go to my mom's funeral. So we go to my mom's funeral, we stay with her family, and the time of the funeral, she said, oh, we cannot go, it's too dangerous. This was over 10 years ago. This was 13, 14 years ago, I believe. Hold on, let me do some math. So this was about 16 years ago. So 16 years ago, if you know anything about Haiti, Haiti was not the way it is now. This was pre-earthquake Haiti. So she said, oh, it's too dangerous. The day of the funeral, I woke up, I got ready, she said, oh, you know what, we're not going, it's too dangerous. And so I was in Haiti, a few miles from the church where my mom's casket was, where her funeral was being held, and I was not allowed to go. And I remember I cried, I begged, but I was not allowed to go because she said it was too dangerous. And later on, I realized that she used the money from her husband to take me to Haiti so that she could go see her family, because she saw her family and I did not see mine. So I never got to see my mom, you know, laid to rest. So we go back to the US, and things just continue to get worse. She would wake me up to go and do chores left over by her kids at 3 a.m. and there'll be dishes in the sink. So she'll wake me up to go do the dishes because one of her kids did not do them. I remember one time, it was my birthday, and some of my friends from school got me, like, I remember there was a pair of jeans, a notebook, and different things like that. And I was so happy. I wore it, and I remember I came out of the room and she was like, where'd you get those from? And I said, oh, I got it for my birthday. She was pissed off. So she told me, take it off, bring it back, bring it to her. So I brought it to her. She took a pair of scissors, cut the jeans up into pieces, threw it on the floor, and told me, pick it up and throw it away. There was another instance where she locked me in the closet because, honestly, I was what, 13, 14? I don't even remember what I did that warranted being locked in the closet. I remember having a lot of panic attacks. I remember always being scared of being with her in the house when the other kids weren't there and her husband wasn't there. At one point I wrote in my journal and I was just very upset. So I wrote something like, I cannot believe that my mom died and left me in hell, something like that. I can't remember exactly what I wrote. And so she found my journal. She took it and made copies of it and showed it to everybody in the church, saying I'm such an ungrateful orphan. She took me in and did all this for me, and I'm so ungrateful. I'm talking crap about her behind her back. So she took my private journal and distributed it to the whole church. And I think that was the last time I had a journal. I never wrote in a journal again. I never wrote my thoughts down again since then to this day. Nearly like a decade and a half later, I still don't write my thoughts down. because, well, I guess I'm traumatized. And I remember one time, so during one of the report card times, I was doing really well in school. So her husband came and he's like, okay, time for, you know, the report card prizes, whatever. So I remember he gave his daughter like $20. He gave his son like $10, and he gave me like $10. And I was so happy, and I was gonna buy stuff. And so she's like, oh, why is he giving you money? That is so weird. And she started dropping little connotations here and there, like, why are you so fast? Why are you so grown? And different things like that. And like I said, I was really good in school, and I was always winning book contests. So I would get like coupons and different prizes to go and get books. And whenever I had any kind of money, I would go and buy books at the library, because they usually have like the discounted book sales. So I had like a really good collection of books. And so at one time, because she wanted to punish me, she ripped up my books, threw some away, and so she basically got rid of my entire book collection. And and to this day, I don't buy books. I don't buy physical books. I don't have a book collection. All my books are in my Kindle. So that's another thing, I guess, that's unresolved about my past. This is so sad. I ever had $1? What did you do to earn that $1? Were you selling yourself? What trick did you pull? If I went to the library, I was off selling my body or having sex with grown men. So this heavily impacted my sex life, and it's something that I carry with me to this day. I didn't have sex until I was 26, and we all know how that turned out. If you don't, you can go ahead and watch my single mom story. I guess I was about 14 when she decided that she had enough, and she kicked me out of her house. And the basis for her kicking me out of her house is that she says she thinks I was sleeping with her husband, so she kicked me out of the house. She said, I'm a slut, I'm a whore. She kicked me out of the house, and she sent me, I was passed off to stay with another member while they dealt with DCF. So at 14 years old, my foster mom kicked me out of her house because her husband was treating me like one of his children, and she thought something was wrong with that. She said I have to have been sleeping with him or doing sexual favors for him because I was always trying to be grown, and that's the only explanation for why he would treat me like his child. That's the only reason why he would give me an allowance. That's the only reason why he would also give me a gift if he got the other children a gift. He did not single me out for special treatment. He just treated me literally the same way he was treating the others. So if he came home and bought chocolate bars for everyone, he will bring 3 and he'll give me one as well. So something was wrong with that in her eyes. I was an orphan, so to her, I should not be treated like a normal human being. I should not be treated like a child. I should not have any privileges. If you guys don't know how the foster care system works, any annotation that is placed on you when you get into the system follows you everywhere. So her saying that I was sleeping with grown men followed me through my whole foster care journey. So instead of like being placed in homes for good children, I was placed in harder level homes with abusive people. So I later found out when I finally got into the foster care system that she wrote a letter depicting me as a prostitute, as a fast tail girl, just to get me out of her house. So basically, I guess she would write whatever she could write just to get rid of me. And it's crazy because at that time, I was such an innocent-minded child. I don't even think I even fully knew what the logistic of sex was, right? I was 13. I was not developed. It's crazy to me that Black women always put these annotations on other young Black girls just to feel better. I don't know. After living with this abusive lady for, I think it was maybe 2 years, I'm not sure, I don't remember, I officially entered the foster care system, and I started off in a group home. I will say my first group home wasn't as bad as others I've heard, right? So it's basically like it was basically like a security thing. When you go in, you cannot take belts, you cannot take shoelaces, you cannot take anything. You have to give away your cell phone, and in order for them to make sure you don't commit suicide or different things like that. So I was not allowed to take anything inside with me into my room. And I had a roommate in the group home. I remember my roommate was a 13-year-old girl who was sleeping. She had a 24-year-old boyfriend and she talked about him all the time. And another one of the roommates, she was sleeping with her stepdad. And so basically I was placed into homes for people who were in like similar situations, even though I never had sex with him. I was not having sex with any grown people. Like that was just not my thing. And back then I was reading the Babysitters Club, I was reading the Hardy Boys, I was reading Nancy Drew. My mindset and my ideal world were like juvenile. It was just worlds where, you know, people had nice families or happily ever afters and things like that. I was reading children's books, and then I was thrown into a group home where I had to start acting tough and start acting like I knew what things were, or I get beat up. And I was embellishing stories. It was kind of like either you fit in or you get beat. That's what it is. That's how it was. So I remember a girl was hiding her nasty pads and tampons under people's pillows just so she could fight them. And even though it's not my worst memory of a place to stay, it certainly was not my fondest either. And but a nice thing about it is that in the mornings, you know, you get your stuff for school, and then we all sat down and ate breakfast together. And on Fridays we went on field trips. I remember we went to a water park once. We had some early access to some movies, so there was some good times. And eventually and then, you know, but there was also a lot of bad times. It's a group home. And eventually I was sent into my first official foster home. So in that home, I remember it was another one home that was hell. There was a girl there that always would steal my underwear. She would steal like my clothes, my shoes, my money. Like everything I would have would be stolen from me. Not in a group home, but actually in a foster home. And the mom, she was very... There was a lot of kids there. There was like 3 younger kids. She had her daughter, her son who were older, and I think there was one lady that was pregnant and she ended up giving birth while in that foster home. There was another girl and another boy. I can't remember. I think it was around 7 or 8 kids, and then I came in. And with the girl that was pregnant, I think she was like 15 or something like that, and she was pregnant. So I was again placed in a home for kids who are believed to be promiscuous or too fast or prostitutes or whatever the heck the label on me was at the time. It is crazy to me, you guys. Don't judge me for this. I would skip school and I would spend all day in the library. Legit, 100%. I skipped school and I would go to the library, because to me the library was a safe place. I could read stories about people who were happy. I could read stories about and make up my own world. So books were my safe way, my getaway. I never purchased any books to keep since then, but I would, you know, read stuff in the library or borrow things I could return. And it's so crazy to think that you're skipping school to go to the library. Such a weird concept. And so at one point, eventually she said, you know what, I don't know what you're doing all day. I think you're still back to your old shenanigans, sleeping with older men and different things like that. And the crazy thing is, nobody ever had proof of this, right? Because all I did was spend my time in the library. That's all I did. I met Rachel the year that my mom died. And so she was... I guess this part of the story is probably a story for another time. Rachel, my best friend, if you guys don't know, she's her channel is RNL Life. She also has another channel with her twin sister, my other best friend, which is RNR Twins, so you guys can check them out. I'll put their links in the description below. And when I went for my mom's funeral, I was missing for about a week, and for some reason we were in the same class, and my teacher kept marking her absent and marking me present because we're Rachelle. So she kept mixing up our names. So when I came back, she was like, oh, so you're that Rachelle. And I remember I was traumatized. I was not in a mood for, like, you know, making friends or talking. And Rachel was like, so are you okay? What's going on? Are you okay? She just would not let it go. She was like a persistent little, like annoying, like buzzing fly. And so I remember one time we were at lunch together, and I rushed up to the bathroom because I guess I was emotional and I needed to cry. So I rushed up to the bathroom to cry, and this little annoying buzz fly follows me, and she's like, what's going on? What's wrong? And I told her my mom died, and the reason I was absent is because I went to a funeral, which I really didn't get to go to. And so that started the amazing long friendship that we have now. So she invited me to her house. She invited me to church. I remember I went to her house for the first time, so that became part of like a routine. I would go to her house sometimes, and I started going to church with them, and I joined the dance team. And it was just like, instead of like just the library being an outlet for me, I found a happy family, you know, where everybody felt loved, everybody was loving, they were welcoming. And I also found a church where I finally did not mind being part of. So instead of just having the library as a getaway, now I had the church as a getaway, and I had, you know, Rachel's house as a getaway. So moving forward, I remember like I would always have Rachel's mom ask my foster mom, hey, can she stay over? I think they met at one point so that they could build that trust kind of thing. So I was constantly, you know, trying to stay over at Rachel's house, constantly trying to. So because of that, at one point, she said, oh, she thinks I'm lying. I don't really go where I say I go. And I honestly, I don't even know why that she wrote to them and say, you know what, I don't want this like girl in my house anymore. She's up to old tricks or whatever it is. And basically I was moved. I went to another group home for a while, and then I went to another foster home. I went to some temporary foster home, and eventually I found my last foster home. And that was, I think I turned 17 when I went to her house. And this house was probably the best home I lived in. I probably didn't I don't think I realized it at the time, because I was traumatized from different homes that I lived in. I was traumatized from different foster mothers. And you know, it's funny because it's always been the women. It's never been the men. It's always been the women who are just abusive and mean and angry and disgusting. After I found Miss D, and I still call her Miss D, we still talk. We talk almost, like, we talk at least once a week. And I have to say, she ended up being another Haitian mom, and for some reason, I don't know what she saw in me, that she decided, like, I don't believe anything that was said about you. I'm just gonna give you a start from here, so we're gonna go from here and move forward, and whatever happens from now is what I'm gonna use to judge you. And to me, I was like, whatever, who cares? I don't give a shit. Like, I don't care. I'm already over it. I'm already at my max. I don't trust anyone. Forget you, whatever. But she was like, nope, you're going to school, you're going to finish school. At that point, I've gone to like 7 high schools at that point. This was like my 7th high school in 4 years. And so she's like, no, you're going to go finish school, you're going to graduate, and you're going to go to college. And I was like, girl, if you don't. But she had some tough love, but the difference between her tough love and others that I've experienced was that she was not abusive. She didn't lock me in closets, she didn't beat me, she didn't rip up my gifts in front of me, she didn't withhold food, she didn't share my journals with her church. She actually even allowed me to continue going to my church with Rachel and Becca. So I was still able to praise dance, and I was still able to you know, have the church as my outlet. I would just do my praise dances, I would go to school, I would go to the twins' house a lot. You can ask her parents. Like, her mom calls me her adopted daughter because I was literally there like every day after school and twice on Sundays. So thankfully, unlike a lot of different people, my foster care journey ended up on a positive note because I was able to graduate high school, and I was able to start college, even though I moved off from college in the beginning to go and work as a restaurant manager, to basically kind of like get a feel for a career. And then I went back after. But I think I will say honestly that she probably saved my life. I know that I was not the easiest child for her, because by the time I reached her, I was already traumatized from, you know, different experiences and different homes I've been to. But I will say she was very patient. Miss D, if you're watching this, I love you so much. Thank you for everything you've done. I know that you brush it off sometimes, but you really were the best foster mom that I've ever had in my life, and I don't know where I would be today if it wasn't for you. And I also want to give a special shout out to my case manager. I met her a little bit later in my foster care career, but we speak every day to this day. And between Auntie Carol, Rachel and Becca's mom, my foster mom Miss D, and my case manager Sherry, I love you guys so much. You guys are the mother figures that have the best mother figures I've ever had in my life. And the fact that, like, my mom will be so proud that I found you guys. She'll be so happy. But without you three, I don't think I will be the woman I am today. I don't think I would have survived to this day. I thought so many times about ending my life because I was so miserable as a teenager, but you guys have saved my life and I thank you so much for that. Rachel, Becca, you guys know your friendship as a teenager, it was everything that I needed. I guess, you know, God placed the right people in your life at the right time. So yeah, that's basically my foster care story summarized. As an adult, I've gone to therapy, I've sought out help, I'm constantly always working through my trauma, and even though some things I still just prefer not to do, like I don't write my thoughts in a diary anymore, I prefer not to purchase books. I'd rather just like put them on my Kindle, and just different things like that. So but you know, yeah, well, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for giving your girl a lot of love. But I'm gonna cut it off here. And as always, may your hair game be as strong as your coffee game. I love your latte. Bye, boos.